Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving into a really specific and, I think, powerful passage today. It's from the book of Numbers, chapter 32, specifically looking at verses 16 through 27. And this section, well, has some pretty profound insights about faithfulness, you know, about what it really means to follow through on your word.
It really does.
We've been looking at the scripture itself, obviously, but also some really helpful study notes that dig into the details quite a bit.
Yeah, good stuff there.
So our goal in this deep dive is pretty straightforward. Pull out the core message of this Numbers passage and then explore what living that out might look like for us right now. And we're drawing only from the source material we have.
Right, sticking to the text and the notes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's set the scene. Imagine this. The Israelites, they've been wandering for 40 years, right? 40 years.
A lifetime, basically.
And they're finally standing right there on the edge of the promised land. I mean, this is a huge moment, pivotal.
Absolutely massive. And right at this crucial point, you have two tribes, Reuben and Gad. They come forward with, well, a request. What's fascinating here is they approach Moses and they look around at the land where they currently are, which is on the east side of the Jordan River. And they see that this land is just incredibly good for their livestock. They've got huge herds.
Right, perfect grazing land. You can almost picture it. So they say to Moses, basically, hey, look, this land is great for us. Can we just stay here?
Yeah.
We'll build fortified cities for our families, pens for our animals, you know, settle down on this side.
Yeah, and they explicitly say in verse 19, we won't inherit with them on the other side because our inheritance has come to us on this side of the Jordan to the east. They feel like they've found their spot, their perfect place.
Makes sense from their perspective.
Yeah.
But Moses, he hears this and immediately has a concern, a pretty big one.
Yes, exactly. The passage makes it clear he's worried. He's thinking, hold on, is this just about good land or are you guys trying to get out of the hard part?
Get out of the fighting.
Yeah. Avoid the dangerous work of crossing the Jordan and helping all the other tribes conquer their land. It looks a bit like they might be opting out of the collective struggle.
Okay, so that's a serious concern. How do Reuben and Gad respond? Because that's where their commitment comes in, right?
Absolutely. To counter Moses' worry and prove they aren't, abandoning the others, they make a very strong promise. They lay out exactly what they will do.
Okay. What does that involve?
Well, it's got distinct parts right there in the text. First, and this is key, they commit to going first into battle. Verse 17, they say, we will take up arms ready to go before the people of Israel until we have brought them to their place.
Wow, okay. Not just joining in, but leading the charge.
Exactly. And this is hit again in verses 20, 21, 27. They will go before the Lord into the war. They're putting themselves at the front.
That's a serious commitment. Okay, front lines. What else?
Second, they promise they won't return home, not back to the east side until every single tribe has received its inheritance over on the west side.
The whole thing.
The whole campaign. Verse 18 says they won't return until each of the people of Israel has gained his inheritance. Verse 22 echoes it. Not until the land is subdued before the Lord and everyone else has their possession. They're in it for the long haul.
Okay, so they stay until the job is completely done.
Oh.
Got it. And there was a third piece about their families.
Yes, the practical side. While the men are fighting across the river, their families, women, children, and all their livestock, they'll stay behind, but safely. They talk about building fortified cities for them back in verses 16 and 26. So, dependence and wealth are secure while the men fulfill their military duty.
Right, that makes sense. Secure the home base while they go fight with everyone else. So Moses hears this detailed plan, this promise. What's his response? Does he just say, great, sounds good?
Not quite that simple. He agrees, yes, but it's very conditional. Very. He says, basically, okay, if you will do this thing, if you arm yourselves, if you go over the Jordan, then after that you can return to be free of obligation, and this land will be yours. That's verses 20 to 22.
So the agreement totally hangs on them actually following through.
Completely. It's all conditional.
And this is where Moses delivers that really sharp warning, isn't it? It's not just, oh, please do this. There's real weight.
Oh, absolutely. Huge weight. He says at verse 23, but if you will not do so, behold, you have sinned against the Lord, and be sure your sin will find you out.
Oof. Your sin will find you out. That's direct.
Incredibly direct. It carries so much gravity. And he repeats in verse 24, they must do what you have promised. No wiggle room.
Yeah.
Breaking this promise. It's not just letting your buddies down. It's presented as sin against God himself. And there will be consequences. Guaranteed.
Wow. Okay, so that really elevates it, doesn't it? Takes a practical, maybe even slightly selfish request and turns it into this major test of spiritual integrity, obedience to God.
Exactly. It's about their word before God.
So let's take this ancient story now. What does it really tell us today? When we look at this passage through the lens of our sources, what are the key ideas jumping out?
Well, pulling back from the narrative itself, I think a huge takeaway that comes through loud and clear is that faithfulness. It isn't just passive belief. It's not just good intentions. It fundamentally means following through, actually doing what you commit to. Reuben and Gad, they couldn't just say they wanted the land. They had to commit to concrete, difficult action.
Right, that link between belief and action. It's so easy to say we believe something or to make promises, in a moment of inspiration or worship.
Yeah.
But this passage hammers home that true faithfulness is seen in how we live day to day, the actions we actually take.
Exactly. And building right on that, connecting back to Moses's really strong warning, another crucial idea here is that God sees our integrity. He sees it.
Yeah.
That whole "your sin will find you out" thing. It underscores that God doesn't just overlook broken promises or, a lack of follow through.
That's powerful because it suggests God sees beyond what maybe other people see. He sees the heart. He knows if we're serious about the commitments we make, whether that's to him or to other people or even promises we sort of make to ourselves about how we'll live, our integrity or the lack of it. God knows.
Which leads naturally, I think, to a third key insight from this story. Our choices, they affect more than just us.
Yeah.
Reuben and Gad's decision, wanting to stay east, even though it was driven by a personal preference for that land, it had massive implications for everyone, the whole community of Israel. Their willingness or unwillingness to fight directly impacted whether the other tribes would get their inheritance.
That connects right back to us, doesn't it? Our own faithfulness, or sadly, sometimes our unfaithfulness, it creates ripples. Our choices impact our friends, our family, maybe our church community, our workplace. And they definitely shape our own future. We're all connected. Our integrity matters for the whole group.
Definitely. And the material we're looking at, it actually pulls out some really pointed questions based on this passage. They're framed maybe for young adults initially, but honestly, they're relevant for anyone listening.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was struck by them too. The first one really makes you stop and think, are you actually living out the commitments you've made to God? And this isn't just about, the huge life-altering promises. It could be smaller things. Commitments made in prayer, maybe about how you'll treat people or use your time or follow what you sense God is leading you toward. Are the actions matching the words?
That's a challenging question. And the second one, it taps into a really common struggle. Are you choosing comfort or are you choosing responsibility? This passage shows Reuben and Gad choosing a hard responsibility going into battle first, partly to secure their comfort later, yes, but they still chose the hard path initially. Faithfulness often means doing the difficult thing, the thing we'd maybe rather avoid. Even when nobody's really pushing us or watching closely, it's easy to pick comfort. Faithfulness might mean picking the hard road because it's the right one, the one you committed to.
And this all circles back, doesn't it, to God's own character. The material reminds us that he is faithful. And because he is, he calls us to be faithful too.
Yes, and crucially, it highlights that essential balance in God's nature. He is incredibly merciful. The notes mention Exodus 34:7, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin. But he is also just. He doesn't just ignore sin. He doesn't pretend it doesn't matter.
That duality is so important. His mercy is amazing, but his justice means our choices, our sin. They aren't just swept under the rug. Which brings us right back to Moses' stark warning in Numbers 32:23. If they didn't follow through, their sin would find them out. There are consequences.
Real consequences for unfaithfulness.
Yeah.
And the material kind of wraps up by pointing to a simple prayer idea, which I think captures the application well. Basically just asking God for help.
Yeah.
Help to be faithful, not just in what we say, but in our actions. Help to actually remember the promises we've made. And importantly, help to find the strength we need to follow through, especially when it gets difficult.
Yeah, because it often does.
So if we were to summarize the core message we've pulled from this deep dive, it's really about that powerful link between faithfulness and the concrete act of following through on what we say we'll do. It highlights that God sees our integrity, he sees whether we mean it, and that our personal choices in this area, they create real ripples impacting our community, shaping our future. And what's really fascinating here, I think, and worth sitting with, is that tension Moses lays out right there in verse 23. That certainty, If you don't follow through, you have sinned against the Lord, and be sure your sin will find you out. That warning is so strong. And it sits right alongside that profound truth that God is both merciful and just. He sees, he cares deeply about whether we actually keep our word.
And it really does raise an important question then for you listening. As you think about this passage, maybe consider, in what area of your own life right now might faithfulness mean stepping up? Stepping up and doing the difficult thing, remembering that God sees your integrity, and remembering that your choices, they really do have impacts that reach further than you might think.